Hey everybody. So today I'm going to be showing you how to do my favorite soft-hackled nymph. It's a beadhead nymph. If you've followed along with my videos, I really appreciate you guys watching. If this is your first one, welcome. In the first couple videos, or maybe my first video, I mentioned that I don't really see the need for slotted beads. I wanted to do this because this is the exception. So clearly here I'm going to use a slotted bead because I have a jig hook. Now this is a size 14, and I'm just going to tie a little Peacock soft-hackled nymph here. You can turn it into a Prince nymph really easily. I'm not really sure that it really has a good name otherwise, but this is just a little attractor nymph for trout or bass or panfish even. You can use it for steelhead. You can, I mean, just a great nymph if you're out there searching for fish. And you can obviously interchange a bunch of these materials in a bunch of different ways, and you guys will see that really quick. So first of all, I've got a size 14 hook here. It's a Daiki 4640 heavy jig hook, so just a little bit of a longer shank on this one, which is going to be good. So I'm going to start with my 0.15 rather diameter lead wire. We'll go about 8 wraps. And for this, you're not going to have the ability to tuck it in like you would a sunken head bead, but that'll be okay. I'll show you kind of how to keep that in place here in a second. So, like I said, this fly, if you're just learning out, you're gonna learn a lot of really good techniques really quick here with this one. So, I'm gonna go with some 140 denier waxed thread in fluorescent orange color. And this is my thread of choice for these size flies. It's thick enough to give you some good purchase on when you're grabbing materials, but it's not so thick that you're excessively building up if you miss a couple wraps here and there. So I'm going to go ahead and build a little thread dam behind this wire just to keep it in place, and then I'll flatten out my tying thread. And I'm going to go over this a little bit. Now, I don't want to go really tight here, because what will happen is if you go really tight, you're going to push this forward and you're going to spin this bead. So you want this bead to stay right like that, okay? So that makes it, if you weren't looking at this, that's perfectly centered. So if you had any questions about that, that's how you want it to be. Now next, I like to build up a little bubble here at the back, and I'll show you why in a second, because I'm going to do a goose biot tail. So when I'm using goose biots, I like to spread them out like that, and so they aren't on top of each other, and I don't even really want them to have a chance to be on top of each other. And doing that with like just a little tiny bubble will keep that from happening. So I'm going to go with like a light orange goose biot. You could do white, you could do brown. I like a light orange. And then if you haven't used goose biots, they bend, right? And they have one cup side and one non-cup side. So what you want to do, I have two here in my hand. I'm going to snip off the end. Okay. And I'm going to take one of them and turn it, so that they're going opposite directions. Now, take those, even them up, the tips. You want the tips to be even. You want it to be about a shank's length for your tail. You can tilt this towards yourself a little bit. It's kind of hard to see. And then like this, I want a soft, really, really soft. One moment. If you're having trouble with this step, also, another good thing you can do is just do a little half hitch here. Just do a little half hitch here and leave it right there, okay? So that way, if I get really loose, see, my thread's not going to move from there. So doing that, it allows me to make a really loose wrap for this first go around, which sometimes working with biots can be a little tricky, and that will save you a lot of headache if you do it like that. So there's a little trick for you that I've learned. Now, like I said, I want to just be here, real loose. I could do real loose again. Oh boy, I got a lot of thread out right now that I don't need. There we go. So, I don't want this to be on that side. I want it to be on this other side of the hook. If you have a rotary vise, use it to your advantage at this step in time. So tilt it a little bit, okay? You always want to be worried about thread control, and that's not necessarily the amount of thread you're putting down even sometimes. Sometimes it's the thread that you have out of your bobbin. Sometimes it's how your thread is shaped. And I am struggling here a bit because the camera's in my way, so give me one moment. Basically just do everything I just told you. And then when you tighten it up, you'll have a good looking little thing there. Good looking tail. Okay. We're gonna fool around with this a little bit, I can tell already. That's the only downside to making that bubble, is that sometimes it doesn't want to stay on its correct side. Now, spin it. Usually it'll tighten up itself. It'll spin itself around rather when you tighten it up, but that's going to be perfect. So next I'll come in here, I'll snip off this excess. Now another thing, good rule of thumb is you want to go opposite of the way that you are going to actually shape the fly. Meaning, if I want to wrap this wire around, it needs to go down first, right? So that goes down first. I tucked it in there, but you won't be able to see it once we're done. And I'm going to bring it back. A lot of people use a little more wire than that. I like it because I kind of have a soft, little bit of a shape going, and as I add thread wraps up here, I'll get that taper that I am really looking for. So now we're going to take about 4 strands of peacock herl. Okay, we're going to take those and we're going to trim off the very, very tips so that they're even up. Okay, and peacock is very, very delicate, so you want to be careful with that. But I'm going to start this peacock right about here, grab all 4 and take it back. Doesn't have to be. You can leave some uncovered. It's going to be all right. Trust me. Now I take a little thread out and I'm going to leave it there. So we're going to tie it in up here, but even so, I'm going to leave it where it is, and I'll show you why. So as I wrap forward, be careful not to catch the point of the hook here. As I wrap forward, that thread right there is going to stop these peacock curls from separating. So I forget where I learned that trick. If I could give them credit, I would. But that is a great trick because now they didn't separate and I'm right here. And we'll stop it right there actually. And I can just go ahead and grab that. that 140 denier. Look, one wrap and it's grabbed. So do 2 more, 1 in front just for safekeeping. And now we're going to trim that off. Okay. Now for our ribbing, we tied in that wire. So I'm going to take that wire and I'm going to do opposite of how I wrap that peacock. And you can kind of snake it back and forth so you're not trapping those fibers. This will add a little more segmentation, maybe not to your eyes, but the trout will notice it. Or whatever fish you're searching for. So I like to hold that there. Come around, come back up with that. That's not going to go anywhere now. So lock that off. A wrap or 2 in front. Okay. And you can either use your bobbin to stabilize. I just use my thumb. Okay. So that's very good. I'm going to go ahead in here and grab some dubbing. So now you could, play around with the colors, whatever you think. This isn't, it kind of has some stonefly or whatever. You can make it whatever color you want. For this, what I tend to do is either separate green or like an orange. Since we kind of have that orange going, I have a little bit of a hot spot in the back that you can kind of see there. So you know what, let's do an orange. How about that? I'll take a little bit of ice dubbing. I'm going to separate it in my hands to break it up. I'm going to come down. I'm going to make myself a little dubbing noodle here. Pretty tight, pretty tight. Get it tight up there. Okay, that'll be good. And I'm going to go right behind here with that. Let me add a little bit more. Let me add a little bit more because this is only going to help that soft hackle create an even better envelope for us afterwards. So we have a nice looking hot spot there behind. We're going to have another one in front. And now it's time to put our soft hackle on. So I have some Hungarian partridge. I don't have a partridge cape. I wish I did. They're kind of tough to find. So I just have the bag of mixed feathers that you can buy. The downside to that bag is, unfortunately enough, a lot of them are kind of useless. But that's okay. You find one that works. I like one that's gonna, see, now that's gonna be too long. I already separated it and everything, but I only want it to go just kind of to the front of the hook point. So you see, let me test out another one here. Bear with me. How about that one? Now that's a good length. See that? So I strip down those fuzzy fibers off, get them out of my way because they're a little bit of a hassle. Let's see that. Yeah, that's a pretty good length. Pretty good length. Now, just as I just showed you, you want to separate those fibers down very, very softly. Okay, so now using this, I'm going to come in here. I like to lay that right there. So I've separated these fibers down. These are going to be on the fly. I'm going to get rid of this. So I keep this right up against there with my thumb, and I'm going to tie that in. Okay? I'm going to go 1, 2. I'm going to do one wrap in front. All right. I'm actually going to do a third wrap behind. I don't need to, but I really hate when it slips out. So now you can get rid of this. If you guys have watched my videos, you know I'm not a huge fan of hackle pliers. Having hackle pliers, however, for this step, gonna make your life a lot easier. So I'm gonna get rid of that, just so it lays down a little better for us. Maybe. Right there. Good. Now go ahead and take your hackle pliers. I like this pair the best. And then as you're wrapping soft hackle, if you haven't, go ahead and grab it. So before you start wrapping, pinch both sides and pull back, okay? So you take it like that, and you can just start here to go around. All right, pull that all back so you're not wrapping any in front. You want all these fibers to face backwards, okay? That's already looking pretty decent. That fiber's gonna get in my way. Great. Now, sorry for the shake. Right there, I got my end piece. One wrap of this 140 denier grabs that stem really nice. Now, I like to go one of them in front, as we've talked about many times, just to make this easier, not only to trim, but also to hide. See that? Okay. So we have a pretty good looking fly there already. We're almost done now. Now we're just gonna build up this thread, make ourselves a little bit of a hotspot, and you can take this and you can go just a touch over the front of that soft hackle. It's just gonna push it back a little bit more. Don't be afraid to build up your thread here. It's okay. I actually think this helps the fish find it a little more, because you're just gonna fish this to kind of even see what's biting. Little attractor pattern. And that also is gonna help that head from, or the bead head from spinning on the hook at all. Okay. Do another one. Don't really need it, but. And that's it, folks. That's my Peacock soft hackle attractor nymph. Really effective fly for pretty much everything you can think of. Does really well. I like a little bit of UV resin here. Flow this time. The thin, it might run into your soft hackle, and we don't want that now, do we? So I get that. I had a little bit of fraying of my thread there. Don't worry. We'll address that here in 1 second. Good. And now I can come in here, get rid of that. If I want, I can get rid of that. Just do a little bit of cleanup. And there she is. Excellent. Thank you guys very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you learned some techniques here. And hopefully if you guys tie this one up, it does a really good job for you. So thanks again.